Remember when everyone told you Tampa was the hottest real estate market in America? Well, forget what you've been taught about Tampa real estate. Because in just 12 months, Tampa plummeted 19 spots on Zillow's hottest housing market list. And I'm not talking about a gradual decline. This is one of the largest drops in the entire nation. But here's what nobody's telling you about this downturn. And in the next 8 minutes, you're going to understand why 90% of people are completely misreading what's actually happening in Tampa right now. Because this isn't just another market correction. This is something far more fascinating, far more complex, and if you're thinking about buying, selling, or even just living in Tampa, this video will completely change how you see what's coming next. Let me show you something that should terrify you, or excite you, depending on which side of this market you're on. Picture this. It's early 2021. You're a Tampa homeowner. You bought your house for $300,000 back in 2019. 2 years later, your neighbor just sold their identical house for $550,000. Your home appreciated by 25% in a single quarter. Not a year, a quarter. You're watching your net worth explode while you sleep. It felt like magic, didn't it? Everyone wanted a piece of Tampa. No state income tax, beaches, year-round sunshine, tech companies relocating, remote workers flooding in from New York, California, New Jersey. Bidding wars everywhere. 50 offers on every house. $100,000 over asking price was normal. You couldn't even schedule a showing before the house was under contract. And then, the pattern broke. Fast forward to 2024. Same Tampa, different reality. Homes are sitting on the market for weeks, sometimes months. Prices are down 2.5% year over year. Construction permits have collapsed by 26%. And here's the kicker. Tampa now faces a 70% chance of declining real estate prices heading into 2025. That's not my opinion. That's what the data is screaming at us. So what the hell happened? How did we go from the 9th hottest market to 29th in just 1 year? Let me tell you about Dave Lesko. Real guy, real Tampa homeowner. In 2022, Dave renovated his entire house. Spent $100,000 upgrading everything, all the things insurance companies supposedly love. His insurance that year? $5,500. Not cheap, but manageable. 2023 rolls around. Dave gets dropped by his insurance company. After all those upgrades, the cheapest replacement he could find? $7,500. That's $2,000 more than before he made his home safer. Then came 2024. Dave opens his renewal notice. His hands are literally shaking. $17,000. Let me repeat that. $17,000. That's a 120% increase from the previous year. $12,000 more than what he paid just 2 years earlier after spending $100,000 in improvements. And Dave's not alone. Florida's average homeowner's insurance cost hit $11,000 in 2024. That's 3 times the national average. 3 times. If you're doing the math, that's nearly $1,000 a month just for insurance. Not your mortgage, not your taxes, just insurance. Then Hurricanes Helene and Milton slammed Tampa back to back. Over 300,000 insurance claims filed just from Milton alone. Over $3 billion in estimated losses. And here's what the insurance companies won't tell you. They're not leaving Florida because of the hurricanes. They're leaving because they can't make money here anymore. And the ones staying? They're charging prices that make homeownership feel like a luxury only the wealthy can afford. In some Tampa neighborhoods, up to 4 feet of water filled every home along the beaches, canals, and waterfront. And if you don't have flood insurance, you're looking at foreclosure, because who can afford to rebuild when repair costs exceed your savings? Here's where it gets interesting. While Tampa was booming, developers went absolutely insane. Water Street Tampa, $3 billion. 56 acres of mixed-use development. One Tampa, 42 stories, 510 feet tall, the tallest residential building in the city. Gasworks, Ybor Harbor, Rome Yard, West Shore Marina District, Midtown Tampa. Billions upon billions of dollars pouring into new construction. Everyone assumed the party would never end. Everyone assumed Tampa would just keep growing and growing and growing. But in April 2024, Tampa issued 1,609 new construction permits. By July, that number dropped to just over 1,000. By September, only 292. That's a 26% year-over-year decline. And suddenly, Tampa has more supply than it's had since 2019. Way more supply. Remember that high school economics class? When supply increases and demand decreases, what happens to prices? They fall. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Tampa has been identified as having a 70% chance of declining real estate prices because of one simple fact. Overdevelopment created a surplus. Too many units chasing too few buyers. And here's the cruel irony. Tampa still needs 26,000 affordable housing units, but developers built luxury condos starting at $1 million. They built 42-story towers for the ultra-wealthy. They didn't build for teachers, nurses, firefighters, or the people who actually make Tampa run. So now we have this bizarre situation where luxury buildings sit partially empty, while working families can't find anything they can afford. The market got drunk on growth and forgot to ask who was actually going to live in all of these buildings. But the third force, this one is purely psychological, and it's the most dangerous. 2 years ago, buyers were desperate. They were making emotional decisions. They were waiving inspections. They were offering cash. They were writing love letters to sellers. Fear of missing out drove every decision. If you didn't buy now, you'd be priced out forever. That was the narrative. Today, buyers have all the power, and they know it. They're negotiating. They're demanding concessions. They're walking away if the deal doesn't feel right. The fear of missing out is gone. It's been replaced by something more powerful: caution. Because when you watch Hurricanes Helene and Milton tear through Tampa, when you see entire neighborhoods underwater, when you hear about insurance companies fleeing the state, when you watch your neighbor's premium triple overnight, you start asking different questions. Is Tampa still worth it? Is this the right time to buy? What if another hurricane hits next year? What if insurance hits $20,000? What if the market drops another 10%? And that psychological shift, that's what drops a market 19 spots in a single year. Because real estate isn't just about supply and demand. It's about confidence. And right now, confidence in Tampa is shaken. The complexity nobody sees. But here's where the story gets really fascinating, because Tampa isn't experiencing a uniform downturn. It's splitting into two completely different markets. Downtown Tampa, Seminole Heights, South Tampa, Hyde Park. These neighborhoods are holding strong. Why? Because you can't replicate the land. There's a finite amount of waterfront property in Hyde Park. There's only one Seminole Heights. Scarcity still matters in these areas. But go north into the suburbs, Pasco County, Hernando County, new construction developments in areas where land is cheap and plentiful, those areas are getting hammered. Prices are dropping. Inventory is piling up. Developers are panicking because they built thousands of homes assuming demand would stay infinite. What experts are actually saying? Now let's talk about what's coming, because the forecast for 2025 is all over the map. Some experts are predicting modest gains, others are warning of further declines. So who's right? According to Zillow's latest data, Tampa's typical home value is 2.5% lower than a year ago. Condos? Down 7.9% year over year. That's brutal for anyone who bought at the peak. And Florida as a whole just experienced something remarkable. It's one of the only states where housing inventory increased enough in 2024 to actually make prices fall. But here's where the optimists come in. Federal Reserve interest rate cuts in late 2024 are starting to have an impact. More inventory is hitting the market, which is actually good for buyers who've been locked out. Nearly 20% of listings are coming with price cuts. That's opportunity. And Tampa's fundamentals, they're still strong. Third fastest growing metro in the entire country. Unemployment at 3.6%, well below the national average. Diversified economy with healthcare, finance, tech, and tourism. These aren't going away because of a market correction. Doug Watcher, a commercial real estate broker, summed it up perfectly. Everything shot up, and it was to the point where growth was at a rate that was not sustainable. But he's not panicking, because Tampa is still Tampa. The beaches aren't going anywhere. The economy is still growing. The population is still increasing. The difference is we're returning to normal, and normal feels like a crash when you've been living through a mania. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room: foreclosures. Currently, Tampa's foreclosure rate is extremely low, just 0.4%. That's nothing. But experts are warning this could change in 2025. Why? Because thousands of Tampa homeowners are sitting on hurricane damage they can't afford to fix. Many don't have flood insurance. Many are facing repair bills that exceed their savings. Some have been paying their mortgage for months while living in damaged homes, waiting on insurance companies that are delaying, disputing, or denying claims. If you can't repair that damage, what choice do you have? Walk away? Go into foreclosure? Sell at a massive loss? One local real estate expert said it bluntly: those who can't make the repairs because they don't have flood insurance may allow it to go through foreclosure.
Where does this leave us? What does all of this actually mean? If you're a seller who bought in the last 2 years, this is painful. You might be underwater on your mortgage. You might not be able to sell for what you paid. And with insurance costs eating into your monthly budget, holding on to the property might not be sustainable. If you're a buyer, this is your moment. More inventory, less competition, motivated sellers, price cuts on 20% of listings, interest rates slowly coming down. You have negotiating power for the first time in 4 years. But you need to be smart. Don't just look at the price. Factor in insurance. Factor in property taxes. Factor in hurricane risk. Factor in what your total monthly payment actually looks like. Because a $400,000 house isn't affordable if insurance adds another $1,000 a month to your payment. And if you're an investor, the question isn't whether to invest in Tampa, it's where in Tampa and what type of property. Downtown and established neighborhoods with scarce land? Probably still solid long term. New construction in suburban sprawl areas? Risky. Very risky. But beyond all the numbers and predictions, there's something else happening here. Something emotional. Tampa residents are experiencing a collective identity crisis. For 3 years, everyone told them they lived in the hottest market in America. They watched their home values soar. They felt wealthy. They felt chosen. And now, they're watching their city drop in rankings. They're paying insane insurance premiums. They're wondering if the next hurricane is the one that finally makes them leave. That's heavy. That's real. And that's why this downturn feels different from typical market corrections. Because it's not just about money. It's about whether Tampa is still the place people dreamed it would be. And the answer? Tampa is still growing. It's still the third fastest growing metro in America. People are still moving here. Jobs are still being created. But the easy money is gone, the guaranteed appreciation is gone, the carefree optimism is gone. What's replacing it is something more mature, more realistic, more sustainable. And honestly, that might be exactly what Tampa needs. So yes, Tampa's housing market is in a downturn. Prices are falling, inventory is rising, insurance is crushing affordability, hurricanes are shaking confidence, and the party that started in 2020 is officially over. But here's what I want you to remember. Markets don't move in straight lines. They cycle, they correct, they reset. And the correction we're seeing right now isn't the end of Tampa. It's the end of unsustainable growth. The question isn't whether Tampa will recover. It will. The question is what Tampa looks like on the other side. Will it be more affordable? Will insurance stabilize? Will developers build for actual residents instead of luxury buyers? Will the city finally address its housing shortage? I don't have those answers. Nobody does. But what I do know is this. Tampa dropped 19 spots in the rankings, and somehow it's still in the top 30 hottest markets in America. Think about that. After everything I just told you, after the insurance crisis, the hurricanes, the overdevelopment, the price declines, Tampa is still top 30. That tells you something about the underlying strength of this market. And whether you're buying, selling, investing, or just trying to understand what's happening in your city, that's the number that matters most. Tampa's housing market downturn is real, but it's not the end of the story. It's just the next chapter. And if history teaches us anything, it's that the best opportunities often come during moments of uncertainty. So stay informed, stay rational, and most importantly, stay ready. Because this market is about to get very interesting.
That's it for today. Please hit the like button if you found this video informative. And make sure to subscribe to the channel.